Hey, this is Dave from metalepidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up guys, Dave and Duncan here from Metal Epidemic, back with another album review. And for this review, we've been checking out the new album from UK experimental metal band Dawnwalker. The band's new album, Ages, will be released on December 4th. Dawnwalker, if you've never heard of them before, they are an experimental metal band from London and formed in 2012, featuring a revolving cast of musicians, but spearheaded by lead songwriter Mark Norgate. Their music blends modern metal with folk and progressive influences into a sound all of their own. There are no two Dawnwalker records that sound the same, but each creates its own world with its own sense of place, characters and mysteries for listeners to immerse themselves in. Ages is the true follow-up to 2018's Human Ruins and sees the band move deeper into long-form compositions, turning their hand to 10-minute plus prog metal epics, which twist and turn through different moods. Ages tells the story of a dying world reflected against our own and the warning signs which go unheeded day by day. Ages was recorded and mixed by Joe Clayton at No Studio in Manchester and mastered by Brad Boatwright at Audio Siege in Portland, Oregon. I'm sure we just reviewed something that Brad Boatwright mastered.
Yeah, is that? I'm sure I cracked the joke right. Boatwright or boat wrong, Dave? I don't know.
I'm sure we have.
I'm sure it was funnier the first time I said it as well. So, sure there was more laughs. Once again, we're going to chalk this up to Duncan picked the wrong country for this band.
Oh, really? Where did you think?
Yeah, I don't know. The cover art threw me. I thought Finland. So,
Finland.
Yeah. Definitely not Finland.
Yeah. I could hear where you were coming from, though.
Yeah. So,
I'd never heard of these guys before. Quite surprisingly, because they're from the UK, so I thought I would have heard the Dawnwalker, but
yeah,
no, haven't. Naturally, I wanted to kind of go back and see, what they've done before, and I checked out their previous album, Human Ruins, and I can see what they're saying about kind of no two albums sounding the same. Whilst you can clearly tell it's the same band, a lot of the styles and influences from this album are there on Human Ruins, but it does have a different overall feel. I think this album, to me, it feels more, I hate using this term, but it does feel more mature.
Yeah, we love it. We love those words, Dave. We're getting to that age now that we can use words like that and we don't sound condescending. You know what I mean? If you're a 22-year-old reviewer and you're calling a band mature, then you're a cunt. You know what I mean? Like, literally, that's a cunt to tell. Like 22 years, like, you've just started shaving your balls. Don't sit there and fucking talk about maturity. You know what I mean? But at the age that we're getting at, Dave, we can use the word mature because we've lived through shit. So.
What do you mean? I'm only 23.
You're a lying cunt.
Yeah, but or maybe more developed is maybe a better word. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm now just thinking about tits, because that's how people describe tits, aren't they?
Yeah.
She's really filled out. She's more developed. It just makes me creepy and weird, Dave. Let's just stay with mature.
Their tits have definitely grown.
My tits have definitely grown. They're up 2 cup sizes, Dave. Really filling themselves out. Let's get off this train before.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. You can definitely hear.
Oh dear, there's my fucking my watch is just like that. Yes, I thought so, Duncan. Let's get off this fucking train.
Is your fucking watch googling fucking tit sizes now?
Probably. To be honest, like, it's a smartwatch, so it's just used to me saying "show me tits." It's like, again, Duncan, again with the tits. There are other things on the internet, like I don't know, linear structures of the compound fractured mind. I don't know. I just made up all that, but it sounds like it could be a book out there. So, but yeah, Dawnwalker, Dave, ages.
Dawnwalker
Sounds different, long form tracks.
Yes, more developed. You can hear that the songwriting has definitely, for me, it definitely moved up a notch from that last album. I felt when I listened to Human Ruins, some of the kind of riffier parts of that album felt maybe stylistically a little disjointed or misplaced at times, where on Ages I feel the styles and sections are much blended much better, and for that I have to give them kudos, because there are a lot of styles on here.
Oh yeah, this is
a lot of styles. You're ranging from like post-rock to black metal to prog to post-metal, even some doom in there, and as they mentioned, there are some kind of folky vibes on there as well. So that is not an easy task to balance all of those styles and kind of make it sound like cohesive. Quite impressive that they managed to do that. The other thing that I think really worked a lot better on this release were the longer length of songs. So I mentioned, there's a lot of the songs in this are 10 minutes plus. When you look at their last album, the songs lengthwise were always are roughly about between 3 and 6 minutes, most of them anyway. This time around, most of the main tracks, there's a few interludes on here, are, as I said, 10 minutes plus, apart from the last track. And I thought these longer tracks worked much better with this band's style. I think it allows them to kind of to fully showcase their sound and build on each track. Also, like as a listener, I felt with this album, I became kind of more immersed in it. It kind of builds and it takes you through this like ebb and flow of you get the kind of mellow, the post-rock textures, then into a wave of fucking blast beats and like post-metal, black metal, post-black metal riffs, and then then into something a bit more avant-garde. The first track is an intro, but second track, The Wheel, probably my favourite track on the album. And that was for a couple of reasons. The first being the kind of structure of the track. I loved the kind of long melodic intro between the guitars and vocals. A lot of nice melodies, all kind of dripping in a very kind of rich reverb. It builds really nicely into this kind of prog section that's a little kind of reminiscent of like early Opeth, and then it takes you into this like really like ferocious like blackened section with these kind of really raspy, almost like into kind of hardcore vocals, and then it kind of combines the two sides, like the dark and light kind of sections together to give you this like atmospheric kind of blackened hardcore tone, which it was one of the highlights of this album for me. I think like vocally especially, this album has a lot going for it. The melodic vocals in particular I thought were really well done. The vocal tone and the kind of choice of melodies really appealed to me on this, especially on tracks like The Wheel, but also Ancient Sands and Colony, A Gathering. I thought they were all particularly good. I especially loved the melody on Ancient Sands. A really, really good hook on it. And for a track that lasts over 13 minutes, it really held my attention for the whole length. The switches on that track between the kind of black metal, the post-metal, and even the kind of doomier sections, seamlessly done. I thought the transitions were fantastic. And there's a really nice kind of choir section on that track, but it's against these really kind of sinister chords, which I thought was a really, really nice choice. The drummer is Hugo, I think his name is. He's one of those guys that I could tell from the recording that he's absolutely playing the shit out of his kit. Like he just, he hits the kit with real force. You can tell he's totally in the zone, like especially on Ancient Sands. But 3 out of the 8 tracks I think on this were kind of short interludes. But I really liked them actually. I thought they really helped kind of blend the album together. And I think because the main tracks are, fairly lengthy, the atmospheric tracks like Numi, for example, with the little sections of like flute on it and a little bit of percussion, I thought that they worked really well at giving you that kind of moment of like respite between the tracks. And even like when they do put two tracks together, like I think it's Burning World and Colony A Gathering are kind of back to back. I liked the way that Burning World kind of fades out and then it bleeds into Colony A Gathering with the same sounds and stuff. I thought that was really clever. That Colony A Gathering has a very like kind of dreamlike beginning anyway, very kind of Yezu and the type of chords and the kind of picking style they used. But I thought the way they blended those two tracks together without the use of an interlude was really well done. I've went on about this for way too long, but what did you make of these guys?
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff to like in here. Like the danger with kind of the danger. I always find. I think we recently reviewed. I'm going to say I think it was Soilwork. And one of my gripes with the longer form track there, maybe not necessarily shared by yourself and from Kyle, was that just because you want to write a longer form song doesn't mean you should. And whilst I didn't necessarily dislike that one, I did feel that there was a bit of a repetitive nature, and I think that is the equation that some musicians come across. Like, writing longer songs is not an easy art. If you're in a doom band, it is. Because it just means you play the same shit longer. But in any other kind of walk of kind of metal, you can't really do that because it becomes repetitive and boring. Or it becomes so diverse that you get to a point where you're like, that, why isn't this two songs? Because it kind of feels like it should be. Dawnwalker have actually achieved a great balance between making their songs longer, interesting and diverse enough to the point where it doesn't feel like it's essentially the quote-unquote bag of riffs that you get with a lot of bands that just feel like, I'm going to write a 9-minute track because I like this riff, this riff, this riff and this riff, and actually my favourite riff's this riff, but it doesn't fit in any other song I've written, so I'm going to put this in at the end. That's not the case here. You do kind of feel like every little song here is its own little chapter of a book, and I quite appreciate that. I hadn't linked it into, once again, don't read the blurb, so I hadn't realised, it was a kind of, on some level, a kind of thematic concept album, which I quite like the idea of, and I think now that you've told me that, it kind of makes sense. The quieter moments in terms of the build-ups, which they use very smartly in their music, I think allow you the range that when they do hit in with blast beats or whatever, which in the grand scheme of things, they're not even that heavy a band, but because they give you those quieter moments, when those bits come in, they feel a lot heavier than they are. And it's a balance in the songwriting, which I think they've got a really good grasp on, especially if what you're saying is it kind of seems to be mostly led by the main guy. He's got a good grasp of that as well, and he's clearly a talented bastard because he takes you through 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7, if we're being honest, different styles of kind of metal writing. And he seems accomplished in all of them. None of them feel like, oh, maybe you should have skipped that one. They're all really well done. They don't sound generic. The kind of Lincoln tracks you were talking about, where they become a bit more folksy and a bit quieter, I agree with you. They're nice little palate cleansers you get in between tracks. I think they work well. Interestingly enough, I've just realised after you described it that I thought track 6 and 7 were one track, which was really fucking long. I think it's because of how it fades out and fades in. I had just assumed it was one track, and I wasn't bored by it either. So once again, that's a testament to them. Yeah, it's a really, really, really good album. I don't necessarily. The thing is, it's been an embarrassment to Richies in 2020. It really has been, and there's been a lot of bands that are doing, on a more bleaker aspect, what Dawnwalker are doing, just a little bit heavier, that I've done kind of longer form releases this year that I've rated very highly. And what's interesting about what they've done is they've put a slightly more positive spin, even though the subject matter itself is something a bit more abstract and bleak. The way they approach it is with a heft of positivity in the writing. There are huge moments here that are, they feel like they're more in a minor key than anything, a major key, more than a minor key, which, those moments really stood out to me, specifically with the use of melody. At times it cuts right through. That there's a kind of, even though it is a foreboding tale, so to speak, there's a hefty ounce of kind of optimism when I was listening to it. I checked it out twice through. be forewarned, it's about an hour long, so you're
Yeah.
like, this is a long haul, strap yourself in. And this is one of these releases as well that I can't imagine at any point I'm going to be like that. I'm just going to listen to Ancient Sands. This is I'm going to listen to it all the way through, and I think albums like this demand that. So it's a set some time aside, get yourself in the right headspace. But last night I listened to it about 2:45 in the morning, because my sleep has been horrendous recently. And at that kind of, everything is pitch black outside, there's not a noise in your house, and you've got that playing in your ears. It's a fascinating, trippy album to listen to, for sure. This is really, really, really good. Once again, like yourself, not only did I have an idea of where they were wrong from, which was wrong, but I had never heard of them before, and it kind of feels like they might be one of these little Britain's best kept secrets, and that they've released a stunning album, and I'd never, and I've been removed for a good few years from the scene, but I feel like this band would have popped up in conversation before if they were bigger, and if they aren't bigger, then that's a shame. But this album is definitely the one to put them on the radar for sure. I was to say I was surprised would be an understatement. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, even the production as well. Thoroughly enjoyed the sound of this album. I liked that they went for a kind of more kind of natural sound. The tones are very natural.
Fits with what they're trying to do. Like, see, once again, if you throw in, it's like we were saying about balance. Like they're throwing so much into the mixing pot here that when those folkier elements come in, if you have a much more refined, polished production on that, it just is going to sound shit. It's going to sound too clean. It's not going to sound like there's an earthy tone about this, which really, really, really works, and I think it's what makes it stand out for sure. Yeah,
it's particularly on like tracks like Ancient Sands, which have that kind of heavy kind of tom intro. The drums just sound so rich and warm sounding, very natural. It totally suits what they're doing, and that kind of lush reverb that they've got in the mix, it really helps kind of heighten some of those like the more kind of soaring, kind of melodic sections on the album. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I enjoyed it more and more every time I listened to it. Each time I put it on, there was something else that stood out that I never even noticed the time before. You know what I mean? There was little things like, oh wow, I never heard that the last time. The melodies though, for me, I thought were absolutely brilliant. I can't stress enough how much I liked the vocal tone and the choice of melody on a lot of the tracks. Although we've mentioned other artists that may have like similar traits to this band, like your Opeths and stuff, I don't necessarily think Dawnwalker straight up sound like anyone.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
There are like similarities, but the more I listen to this, I feel like Dawnwalker do have a quite a unique sound, which is, it's not something you hear all that often in metal. And out of the hundreds of albums that I've listened to this year, I mean, I could count on 2, maybe 3 hands how many of them really like impressed me with something a bit different. And I get that vibe from Dawnwalker. I really enjoyed their sound. I think they do sound very unique. I think for me this is also a clear jump in quality from their last album as well. So it kind of makes me more excited to hear what they do next. Like, considering how far they've come on since Human Ruins, which was only like 2 years ago.
2 years you were saying, which is not a long time.
No, not at all. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to hear where this band go next. But without jumping too far ahead, you need to check out this album. The album drops on December 4th. It's called Ages, and Duncan, rating wise for this one, I think for me this is a really good. This is probably a 4.5 for me.
We're merging like our grades quite a lot in this kind of bulk recording we're doing. I'm with you, I think for all the reasons we said, it's an interesting listen. But it's not an interesting listen in the way that you would say, well, that's an interesting haircut. You know what I mean? you're trying to strain for a compliment, and interesting is the word that comes out. No, the music is actually really interesting, but in an enjoyable way. Where the re-listen value on this is very high. which should not be the case for an album that is kind of, more than sticking its toe into the progressive waters and is long. You know what I mean? It's not the sort of thing I should actively be saying, I could sit down. And it totally is. If I listened to it again tonight, I don't think I'd be like, oh no, I can't believe I'll switch this off. It compels you to listen to it. And I like what they're doing. There's a real good mix here of very clever songwriting and great composition. So like I'm saying songwriting, so like riffs, the melodies and all that really well written, but the way it's pieced together specifically is what makes me want to listen to it more.
I totally agree. So 2 4.5 out of 5 scores for Dawnwalker on their new album Ages, which drops on December 4th. If you want to check them out, it's facebook.com/Dawnwalker UK. Put a little link in the description below. Thanks for checking out the review. Hope you liked it. Much appreciated for checking it out. If you've heard the album, stick some comments in below. Let us know what you thought. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on this one. And thanks for checking out the review. Much appreciated. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.